All right, so last week last Friday we left off with learning how to build a grid and using TweenLight to animate the grid in however manner you want it. What we're gonna do is the gallery that we've been working on, we're gonna now use the grid in the gallery. So in other words, we're gonna load in all the thumbnails, and they're going to be loaded into a grid. And then once you click on the thumbnail, you'll look at the larger version of that picture. Kind of like the same stuff you see out there all the time. I'm not sure how quick we're gonna get through this. We're gonna go obviously step by step. It might take 2 or 3 lessons. We'll see how far we get. So what I did was the XML slideshow that we've been working on it. I kind of like modified the code. Actually, I took out a whole bunch of stuff, and left other things in it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this as my base. As you can see, I left the XML information in here from before. I left the image loader, which we're gonna change from before. The image path variables I left. The image container I left. The load image function. This one I just created, the load thumbs function. And then the next and previous I left as well. As you can see, I commented most of the stuff, and then I've removed a whole bunch of other code. It's very basic, 140 lines, whatever. Left everything the same with the same variable. So all I did was take out code pretty much and comment out the code. We're gonna build on top of this code to get the gallery working. The first thing that I did was I went ahead and I created a thumbs directory inside my images directory. I created a thumbs directory, and I have all the thumbs already available. If we look at here, if I click on one of them, you see here that the thumbnail is 100 by 100. All right, and then the images are the same size that they all were, with a few extra images, so that we can create the grid. That's the first thing that I prepared all my images. The next thing that I did was I went into my XML and I added another path to the thumbs, and then I added another attribute with the name of the thumbs. So as you can see, what I did here, I named them basically the same. The only thing is I prefixed it with a thumb underscore. Alright, same XML, just added a few things to it. Alright, so if we go to the grid class that we worked on Friday, remember that we had a variable called total, and then we gave it a total amount to build out on the grid. So this total amount is going to be whatever our total images or thumbs are going to be in this case. So we're going to first do that. Okay, so this is the main class, and we already had a variable called total images. So we're going to continue to use that. Okay, so we've loaded our data, we waited for the listener, ran the function, XML loaded. Does anybody remember how to get the path and the total images from our XML?
Don't you have to like put the path like on like with dots or whatever?
No, that's for loading the XML. Okay, so remember this is building on top of what we already did. So already here the XML has been loaded. We used the XML data class, so we already stored it in a variable inside the XML data class called data. So we went into our XML class, right, which we have our variable there, and we did data, because inside our XML data class, if we go there quickly, where I want to go, let's go here, project, source. So inside our XML data class, right, we have a variable called data, with that storing the XML down here. All right. So We're going in there, we're going data, and then we want from that data that's already been stored and received, we want to get the image path, right? Here's a variable that I created that's called the image path. It's expecting a string, right? So where's my image path? Okay, if you don't remember, you go back to here, right? And you know that you start at images and the attribute is image path. So if we go back, then all I have to do is say images, right? And then my attribute, which was img path. Oops, excuse me. All right. So let's see. Let me get rid of. Just wanna show you guys how I would do something. So what I did here is just comment it out so that it doesn't work. So now I want to make sure that that worked, right? This is how I would do it. I would make sure that every time I do something, I'm getting what I want, because then if I write, you know, a bunch of lines of codes and something doesn't work, I gotta go back. So I do step by step. All right, let me make sure that I'm getting my image path. Now I removed a lot of code, so I don't know if I'm gonna get a lot of errors or not, but okay, so we got one error.
We got the semicolon.
Line 59. 59. Oh, it's because this doesn't have any value, so let's take that out.
And on the trace?
It's okay for now. Alright, we have another error. And duplicate definition in line E3.
How come you have two main classes?
Oh, because this one was from the grid.
This one that we created.
93 I have in load image function. I have another one here. So I'm going to change that. I didn't realize that I did that. Image. Alright. But at least you know what the errors mean now. So. Alright, cool. So it ran, and as you can see, it traced images. So I know I'm getting it. Great. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to get the total images. Again, I'm going to grab the data from my XML class. I'm going to grab the first parent node, right? So I'm going to go into images, and I want to get all these children. I want to know how many there are in here. So I'm going to images dot children dot length. Now I want to make sure I got that right. Just drop that in there. I'm going to run it. Okay, so we have 6. All right, good. So far so good. All right, I don't need that no more. Let's get rid of all this stuff here. Okay, cool. So I know I have what I need to start everything else. Now the next thing that I have here is the information for the basic image loader class. Well, I don't want it in here because I want to load the thumbnails, right? And then when I click on the other one, I want to load the large one. If I keep it in here and I tell it to load my thumbnails, then I gotta do this all over again for the large images. So what I'm gonna do is gonna remove it out of here, right? And then I'm going to create a I'm gonna have to change this back to load images because that's why I created that class, that function. All right, so what I'm gonna do, I have one that's called load images, which I'm gonna change this one here that says load image because we're gonna change that. Load images. That's gonna be a general function that I'm gonna use to load the thumbnails and load the large images because I don't want to write this again all over. Right? You don't want to re-instantiate this class over and over and over and do all of this. Now this is already expecting an argument, you know, load image, and then in the parentheses expecting what image to load. If we go to the basic image class, image loader class, as you can see, the load image is expecting some sort of a URL. All right, so we're going to send that to them. What do we do? All right, so I want to send it. As you can see, this load images is expecting whatever image it is, right? Notice that I'm not saying thumb or I'm not saying what large image. I'm just going to send it an image, right? And then here I created another parameter that's called type. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this one from here. I'm going to instantiate the class, right? I'm going to I created a conditional statement here. I'm going to walk over this. I'm going to move this down here, right? So now I created a conditional that says if type is equal to thumb, then I want you to, when it's loaded, you're going to run the load thumb method. Else, you're going to do the load image method. Okay, so now this load images, I have to pass it this information. Great. So I'm going to grab this image, this function, and I'm going to say load image. And one thing you have to know, as I'm saying this to you guys, I'm actually thinking about it, what I need to do next, what's the next step, and so on and so forth. So load images. Okay, I want to get first the image path, which is actually wrong. We actually have to create another variable because that's for the regular images. We need to create another image path for the thumbs. Okay, so because I already know that this is going to be the same thing except that I've created one that's called thumb path, right? All I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to grab this, drop it in here, right? What did I call my variable? Thumb path. Just change this to thumb path and leave that as that because that's what I called it here, thumb path. Okay, I just happen to name the variable and the attribute the same. Alright, so now I'm gonna need that, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the path to where the thumbs are, right? Oops, I didn't copy that. Alright, then I want to concatenate, right, or add to excuse me, from the same thing from my images, right? So I'm going into here from my images. I'm going to grab the first one, right? How do I do that? I'm going to go to image, right? Because we're navigating through there, right? And for now, I'm going to do the first one, right? And then I need the name of it, right? I need to know which one to load, which is here, right? So this is my attribute. Right, and I called it what? Thumb. Oops, excuse me. Okay. So now I'm calling this function, and I'm saying the first argument is expecting is an image. So it's going to take this whole thing as my first argument, right? The next one that it's expecting is the type. So I'm going to do comma, and it's a string. So I'm going to tell it thumb, right? So now I've satisfied this here, the number of arguments. So now it says, okay, if the type is equal to thumb, which I'm passing it that specific type, then do the basic image loader, wait for the image to be loaded, and then load thumbs, right? Now the load image method from the basic image loader class is expecting that parameter of a URL. Remember, we just went through that. So I'm going to grab the image that I'm passing to it and drop it in right there. Got it? So if that's true, then it should go to load thumbs because we already passed the thumb. So I'm going to go to load thumbs. All right. Now what will need to happen in this case? Does anybody know what we need to? So now we've already grabbed the path to the thumb. We're sending it the first one, and when it completes, what we would like to do at this point?
Load the thumbnails on the stage.
We're going to start loading the thumbnails, right? Because we gave the first one, so it has the first one. All right, cool. So. All right, cool. So now I've loaded the thumbs, but how do I want the thumbs? Do I want them individually on the stage, or don't want to put them inside a container? We want to put them inside a container. Great. So here I go. We have our image container. I'm going to create another variable. And I'll call it thumb. All right. In this case, it's a sprite. And everybody knows the difference between a sprite and a movie clip, correct? Good. All right. So there it is. All right. And we're in our load thumbs. Now we don't want to put it in here, right? And I'll tell you why. Because this is the overall container. So we want to, as we're loading them, we want to drop them into that container. So what I'm going to do is, here where I'm creating the image container, I'm just going to create the thumb container. It's already the same thing, so I'm just going to copy what I have here. It's the same type of thing. Now I need to do something here. I need to switch the way it's adding it, right? Because it's going to put the thumb container first and then the image container on top. All right, so now we have the container for the thumbs and the container for the big images when we click on them. Great. So what happens once the image has been loaded?
Can I ask something before?
Sure.
Because when you loaded not loaded, but when you got the information for the large images, you also counted how many there were. Do we need to do the same thing for the thumbnail?
Yes, that's what we got. We have to do the total of, we already have the total images here, and the total images is the same number of thumbnails.
Oh, it counts the same.
Yeah, because
Okay.
because it's the same. You know what I mean? It's on the same thing. That's why we did it that way. But yeah, that's why I have that total images there. I guess you could call it just a regular total instead of total images. But I already have that number there, the total amount.
All right.
All right. All right. Cool. So, sorry, lost my train of thought. Okay, so we sent it. We created the containers for the thumb and the image container. We passed to the load images function the image that we want to load, and then we gave it some sort of a flag to know whether to either run the load thumbs functions if it's a thumb. If not, we're gonna do the load image function if it's not a thumb. All right, and then no matter what, we're still gonna call the load image method from the basic loader image class. All right, so now we're up to the load thumbs function. So now once the thumb has been loaded, right, we want to say EVT dot, right, EVT because it's the event, right, that target or current target. And I'm gonna say add, oops. All right, so I've already done a few things. I want to make sure that this works. So right now, the only thing that's gonna happen or should happen is load just the first thumbnail. I haven't put it into any container, haven't done anything else. I just want to make sure that this is working first. And you want to run these tests as you're building it, because again, if you don't want to write a whole bunch of code and then something doesn't work, and then you got to go back and go back and go back and go back. So we got an error that says URL not found. All right, this is telling me that whatever I'm passing to it, it's not finding. Whatever I'm passing to the load image function. So what I want to do, I want to make sure that I'm going to trace this here to make sure that the path is correct. And I just want to trace this. So this should give me the path plus the actual images, the actual thumb that I'm trying to load, right? All right, now let me see what it gave me. It gave me images, thumbs, thumb, image 0.jpg. So I'm like, wait a minute. So that looks correct, right? Because I have an images, right? I have a thumbs, and I have, there you go, there's my problem. It's looking for thumb underscore image where I have these named incorrectly. Right?
But
Oh,
is
yeah,
it,
because in your Dreamweaver over there, in your XML, you named it with the underscore.
Exactly.
And here it's not.
So something as simple like that, you could start breaking your head. I'm like, what? I don't understand. Even though you intentionally meant to name every image thumb underscore image, you're just like, no, that's correct. That's correct. Here you can, as you can see, I trace to see what I'm giving it, what it's grabbing. So now all I do is I could either rename all my images, or I can simply just get rid of this here, which for in this case is easier, and replace with nothing.
won't it be the same then as the big image? No, that's not
It's in a
wrong.
different folder.
It's in a different folder. That's why over here we grab the image path and the thumb path. Right? So now let me trace this again. I'm going to leave the trace in there to make sure it's getting everything. Okay. So it's got that. It says property content not found. All right. So that means that that property that I'm trying to get is not the right one. From the current target, I'm looking for a property that's called content, and it says, hey, that property is not, doesn't exist. All right. So what do? I'm gonna go back and say, well, I've done this before. I'll go back to here. I say, well, how did I do it before? I'm gonna go back to my project, go to my source, YR, go to main. Okay, so this is where we've loaded our stuff before. So let's say, okay, what am I doing wrong here? Here's my loaded image. Oh, that's why I did it different before. Okay, that's because I went a little bit
Too far.
yeah, no, because when we did the basic image loader here, what I did is I'm returning the bitmap, and I was doing this at a simpler scale. So I have to actually do the get image because I already have my bitmap, so I don't need to do it over here. So that's all I have to do. So all I have to do is tell it to give me the image right here. So I'm gonna go here, right, and I'm gonna go add child from my image loader. I'm gonna say image dr.get image. Oh, I copied that, right? Instead of count, I'm gonna get 0. Nah, I just misspelled it. Alright, so there's my thumbnail. So a few things we learned, right? We learned how to start debugging and tracing and figuring out how to get, when you get your errors, how do you go about doing it, right? And then we verified that the first image is gonna work and it's gonna load. Trace is our friend, right? Anybody don't understand something about this? How I did something? No? Everybody's good so far? All right, cool. So I verified that my first image works. Now, I want to take that, but I want to add it to my thumb container. So now how do I add it to the container? You should know this already. How do I add the image to the container, to the thumb container?
The way that we've added, like always, like the add, whatever.
We want to add it to the
child dot whatever.
Well, we were adding it, right? But right now it's adding it to the main stage, right? But we want to add it to the thumb container.
Right, so it's the variable, the name of the container.
Right.
Dot.
Child. Okay, right. So it's just I'm not asking you.
I'm not
trying to trick you guys. I just want to make sure that you understand. I'm not trying to trick you guys. If you know, you know it. Say it.
I thought it was something different on my man.
No.
Over here.
Because no. So I'm gonna grab this so that I don't mistype stuff. So it's simple, right? We're gonna say
where you did something there.
Add child.
I got rid of the add child. All right, so now you're gonna add it to the thumb container. Where is it gonna appear now?
Somewhere in
Inside
the
your
container.
thumbnail.
Same place.
In the same place. Why?
Because we haven't moved the container.
All right, great. So for argument's sake, I mean, we're just gonna give this an X and Y position for now. And later on, we'll position this where we want it. And you know what? No, let's do this correct. We can't do this yet. I was gonna position the thumb container just for argument's sake, but in reality, we can't position the thumb container until we have all the thumbs in it so that we can move it properly.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, it's not gonna move correctly.
Hmm? So we know exactly the width and the, so we're not gonna do that here. All right. Now there's one problem here. We're saying to get image 1,
But you need the length.
right? But right now we want to keep adding to the thumb container the next one and the next one, but we're telling it it's always going to add that one, and we don't want that, right? We want to have a specific count so that we can cycle through the total images.
Huh?
Yeah, because we have our array. That's correct. There's an array, so we have our array already coming from our total images. Right, so we know the length of the images, right? And when it brings it in as an array, which is how we're able to do this, right? Because an array is in between brackets. All right, good. So we have to adjust this. What we did here is to verify that everything we've done all the way to this point works. Right? So now, I mean, essentially you could just comment this out and then we can copy what we need from there. Okay, so now we're gonna load the thumbs. Here's where we're gonna take our grid, right? And create, with our thumbs, we're gonna create our grid. It's gonna be the same way, except we're gonna use our thumbs. All right, so here's our grid, little grid thing. First thing we want is the number of columns and our spacing. Great. So let's add that here. Then we're gonna grab all this code and we're gonna adjust it. We already have this stuff. I just don't want to retype. All right, here's our grid. But now our grid has something that's called new box that we don't have, and yada yada yada. All right, what I want to do in this case though is I want to create a new sprite. Now, why do I want to do that? Because I want to be able to have my thumbnail be interactive, and if it's remember that it's returning a bitmap back from the basic image loader class, so it's raw data and that's what it's giving me. That's just so that it runs faster in your application. But I want to put it into a display object or interactive object so that I'm able to interact with it. All right, so I'm going to change box. Let's leave it at box for now, and let me just create the variable up here. Unfortunately, that one has an underscore, so I will keep it the same way. Okay. So you see how easy I was able to just change it from like an actual object that you had in your library to creating an object on the fly. So what I'm going to use the box for is so that when I click on these, they get listeners and all of that. All right. Now, I don't want to add it to container, but we want to add it to thumb container. Excuse me. Right? And then here we have box. Right? So we're going to take the sprite that we created and we're going to drop it into the thumbs container. Then we're going to take the image and drop it into the box. Make sense? So we have our little boxes, we're dropping the images in there, but then we have our overall container. All right, good. Cool. So here the box does have the listener that we want. All right, I'm gonna take that away from now. We have our X and Y positions, how we want them to be spaced out. All right, they're right there. We have the tween light, how we know how to use that already. And then we're gonna take, instead of container, we're gonna say thumb container. We're gonna put it on the stage once we have all of them. Now there's one thing that's missing here. we used thumb container, but we didn't use the actual image yet. We just created a sprite and dropped it in there. So here, I have to adjust a few things, but whatever. Oops, excuse me. So here what I want to do is I want to say box that add child, and whichever one it is. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. Now we still have a little problem here, right? Because it ran through here and it's loaded the correct one as we verified, right? So every time when load thumbs comes, it's gonna go here and it's gonna try to run this here. But what's the problem? We've only called it one time, right? So if we were to run this, oh, we got a bunch of errors. So first we have undefined property n, right? And this is good because if you guys were to try to copy the grid code and pop it into something else, you're gonna get all these errors. So the first one is the n. The n, remember we created that property n so we know what the index number was? So we don't have that here, right? So that's the first issue. Then the next issue is telling me I have a undefined property easeutil. That's the easeutility that I use for the tween light. We haven't imported that. Then we have these undefined properties called total, container, and those are variables that we've created that are not available in this class. Right? All right, cool. So we're going to fix all of these errors. The first one is we're going to go one by one. We have the n, where it tells me right here, line 103 on main. All right, so let's go to 103. 103 it says box.n equals I. All right, let's get rid of that for now. We'll come back to that. Then the next one it says undefined property. Well, actually, what I will do next is I will verify that I've deleted that error, and that one is good. Okay, cool. Error gone. What's my next error? The easeutility. Oh, oops, I forgot to import that. Let me import that. I'm going to import.
Julio's
Your
2X.
name.
Oh, sorry. All right. So now, let me verify that that one's gone. All right, great. So as you can see, that one's gone. Now it's looking for total, which doesn't exist. We have ours is called total images. Where is it looking for total? Let's see. 119. So let's go here. All right, we fixed that. But being that I already know that these are all the rest of the properties, then I can just fix these at one time. So here's where's container, right here. Right? What's the container in this case? This is for thumbs. So we're gonna use the thumb container. All right. See, we fixed it. We had fixed it here, but we never fixed it here. Let's verify that all our errors are gone. Oh, we still have it one more place. 100. We'll have total in 100. Ooh, right here. And that was total images. But this is the kind of stuff that you're going to run into if you start using other people's classes and you drop them into, other people's snippets and codes, and you put them in there into your. So that's how you can start tracing and eliminating errors. You do one at a time. One at a time. All right, cool. So we got that, you know. And it says parameter child must be non-null. Now, what happened there is what I told you. We told it to load one time only. So it's looking for other ones, it's trying to add child, because we're telling it here that continue to load as long as it's less than total images, but it doesn't have anything else. It can't add a child to anything else because we've only called this load images one time, and it's only going to run this one time. All right, so we have to create a count based on total images to run this again and again and again until we reach our max. Any questions? Am I going too fast? Something to clarify? No? All right, cool.